72 hours. That's all it took for Russia to prove every assumption about this war catastrophically wrong. I'm Kane Shimatsuka, and what landed at Mehrabad International Airport yesterday isn't just cargo. It's a message written in missile systems and mobile defense platforms, delivered at 2:34 a.m. while Washington slept and pretended isolation was still working. An Ilyushin IL-76, registration RA78831, touched down in Tehran on April 16th. The second Russian military transport in 3 days, not emergency relief, not symbolic gestures, a scheduled supply operation with the precision of a metro timetable. And if you think that's where this ends, you haven't been paying attention to the interval between flights. Here's what nobody in the Pentagon briefing room wants to say out loud. Russia isn't watching this war from the sidelines anymore. They're fueling it, openly. With flight tracking data available to anyone with internet access and satellite imagery so clear, you can count the cargo pallets being offloaded by IRGC logistics units who were staged at the airport before the wheels even touched Iranian asphalt. Let me walk you through the timeline, because the timeline is the story. April 13th. A Chinese Y-20 cargo aircraft lands in Tehran carrying HQ-22 air defense radar modules. First confirmed military resupply from a major power since this war ignited on February 28th. April 14th. First Russian IL-76 arrives. Ammunition, spare parts, secure communications equipment. The precedent is set. No acknowledgement from Moscow. No reporting from Tehran. Just flight data sitting in public databases like a ticking clock. April 16th. Second Russian aircraft. Same airport, same operational profile, different cargo. And that cargo? That's where the nightmare begins for anyone flying strike missions over Iranian airspace. Pantsir S-1 surface-to-air missile systems, mobile air defense platforms engineered specifically to kill drones, cruise missiles, and low-flying aircraft. Western intelligence identified the shipment within hours of touchdown, at least 2 complete batteries based on satellite analysis, operational capability estimated at 10 to 14 days, which means by the end of April, the same Iranian nuclear facilities that American and Israeli forces have been hitting with near impunity are going to have a defensive umbrella they haven't possessed since Operation Epic Fury tore apart 80% of Iran's long-range air defense network. Let me explain what the Pantsir S-1 actually does, because this isn't about stopping F-35s cruising at 40,000 feet. This is about killing what those F-35s drop. Each battery carries 12 57E6 missiles plus twin 30mm autocannons. Range extends to 20 kilometers with engagement capability as low as 15 meters altitude. The radar tracks 20 targets simultaneously and engages 4 at once. It's optimized for small, slow-moving threats, the exact profile of loitering munitions and reconnaissance drones that have been hammering Iranian logistics networks for 6 straight weeks. Russia has exported Pantsir systems to Syria, UAE, and Libya. This is proven combat hardware. In Syria, Pantsir batteries operating around Khmeimim Air Base maintained a reported intercept rate above 85% against drone swarms and cruise missiles between 2018 and 2023. That's not manufacturer propaganda, that's operational data from a contested environment where adversaries were actively trying to overwhelm the system. And Iran just received it at the exact moment when American planners assumed Tehran would be negotiating from a position of total weakness. That assumption was based on isolation, cut Iran off, prevent resupply, force capitulation or collapse. Except China and Russia are proving that assumption spectacularly wrong in real time, with cargo flights landing every 48 hours. The interval matters. 2 days between Russian deliveries. If that rhythm holds, the next flight could arrive as early as April 18th. This isn't crisis response. This is a sustained logistical pipeline, and the cargo isn't random. Look at the sequencing. China delivers medium-range air defense components on April 13th. HQ-22 radar modules designed to rebuild theater-level threat detection. Russia delivers short-range point defense on April 16th. Pantsir units designed to protect high-value sites from precision strikes. These shipments are complementary. China is restoring Iran's ability to see threats at range. Russia is giving them the tools to destroy those threats when they get close. But here's what makes this coordination undeniable. The HQ-22 radar systems China delivered operate on frequencies specifically compatible with Russian fire control networks. That's not coincidence. That's interoperability by design. Chinese engineers and Russian military advisors are reportedly already on the ground in Iran, not just delivering hardware, but integrating systems that were built in separate countries to function as a unified defensive architecture. This isn't two powers independently helping Iran. This is a joint military infrastructure project being executed in real time, while American strike aircraft are still operating over Iranian airspace. Taken together, this represents a coordinated effort to rebuild Iran's layered air defense network from the ground up, and neither Beijing nor Moscow is asking Washington for permission. They're not even pretending to care about diplomatic protests or the threat of additional sanctions. Because they know something the Pentagon hasn't admitted yet. The United States cannot shoot down a Russian military cargo aircraft over international airspace without triggering a direct confrontation with a nuclear-armed adversary that nobody in the West Wing actually wants. The economic math is collapsing American strategy faster than airstrikes are degrading Iranian infrastructure. Brent crude remains above $100 per barrel. The Strait of Hormuz is still functionally closed to Western shipping. American gasoline prices are holding at $4 per gallon, and we're 9 days away from crossing the 8-week threshold, where Goldman Sachs projects oil could spike above $120 per barrel. That price point triggers demand destruction severe enough to push multiple advanced economies into recession. We are at day 47 of this war. The clock is running, and Russia just sent its second cargo plane in 72 hours. But there's another number Washington isn't talking about, the cost exchange ratio. A Pantsir S-1 battery costs approximately $15 million to manufacture and deploy. The precision-guided munitions it's designed to intercept, a single AGM-158 JASSM cruise missile runs $1.4 million. A GBU-39 small-diameter bomb costs roughly $250,000. Iran can force the United States to expend $10 to $15 million in munitions, trying to destroy a $15 million defense system that can engage multiple targets simultaneously. And if the Pantsir survives even one strike cycle, it pays for itself by forcing follow-on missions that consume additional aircraft hours, tanker support, and munitions inventory. Russia didn't send Iran a defensive shield. They sent them an economic weapon designed to bleed American precision strike capacity one engagement at a time. Intelligence reports suggest the Pantsir batteries will be positioned around sites Iran cannot afford to lose: Natanz nuclear facility, Fordo enrichment plant, Kunduz reactor, oil refineries in Tehran and Isfahan. The assets that have been repeatedly targeted over the past 6 weeks are about to gain defensive coverage more sophisticated than anything Iran has fielded since late March. And that coverage will be operational by the end of April, while American political will erodes and public opinion fractures. IRGC deployment doctrine is already in motion. The first Pantsir battery is expected at Natanz by April 22nd, according to satellite imagery showing ground preparation and power infrastructure being installed at defensive positions surrounding the facility. The second battery is being staged for Fordo, where American bunker-buster strikes penetrated hardened facilities on March 18th. These aren't symbolic placements, they're calculated responses to specific vulnerabilities exposed by 6 weeks of sustained air operations. Iran is studying every American strike, identifying the munitions used, the approach vectors, the altitudes, and they're positioning Russian-made systems at the exact coordinates where those munitions are most vulnerable to interception. This is adaptive warfare, and the learning curve is accelerating with every cargo flight that lands. A CNN poll released this week showed 62% of Americans believe the war has lasted longer than expected. 48% want a negotiated settlement within 30 days. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated diplomatic channels remain open, but declined to comment on the Russian and Chinese resupply operations. That silence is an answer. Washington has no good options. Intercept the flights and risk war with Moscow. Allow the resupply and watch Iran's capacity regenerate. Every Russian cargo plane forces that decision again. Every Chinese shipment does the same. And the logistical strain is showing. The USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group, originally scheduled for rotation out of the Persian Gulf on April 10th, remains on station with no announced departure date. Crew fatigue reports are circulating through naval communications channels. Maintenance cycles are being deferred. The carrier Air Wing has flown over 4,200 sorties since February 28th. That operational tempo is unsustainable past 60 days without stateside refit. We're at day 47. The math doesn't work. And every week this continues, the economic damage spreads deeper into global energy markets, shipping routes, and supply chains that touch every developed economy on the planet. This is attritional warfare at the strategic level, not tanks grinding across borders, resource bases exhausting, political will fracturing, public support collapsing under the weight of gasoline prices and carrier deployments extended beyond planned rotations. Russia and China are betting the United States breaks before Iran does. They're betting American voters force a withdrawal, that Congress cuts funding, that the coalition fractures under economic pressure. And they're placing those bets openly with military cargo flights tracked in real time because they understand Washington cannot stop them without starting a war it will not fight. The Pantsir systems that landed yesterday will be defending Iranian nuclear sites in 2 weeks. The HQ-22 components China delivered will be integrated into a rebuilt air defense network by early May, and the next Russian flight is likely being loaded at Engels Air Base right now. Iran is not collapsing. It's adapting. It's being resupplied by two nuclear powers who benefit from this conflict's continuation. And the country that assumed 6 weeks of air superiority would force capitulation is watching its strategy unravel in 48-hour intervals marked by cargo planes nobody can stop. Every analyst in Washington who promised a short, decisive campaign is now recalculating timelines they never should have announced in the first place. Every strategic planner who modeled Iranian collapse within 30 days is watching resupply flights land on schedule while oil prices hold above $100 and American voters demand answers nobody wants to give. This war was supposed to break Iran's will. Instead, it's testing America's. And the test is being administered by two adversaries who have spent decades studying exactly how to exploit the gap between American military capability and American political endurance. That's not a war ending. That's a war being fueled by external powers who have already decided the outcome they prefer. And it's not the one Washington promised.